Welcome back everyone to part 22, and this is the last part in this boss fight, and it's my favorite part because this is where we're going to add the really cool and unique boss abilities and attacks, and we're going to bring it all together at the end and fight our boss to see how everything looks like when it comes together. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. All right, now I want to add yet another attack. We're gonna have so many attacks for this boss. And again, I have an animation for it, and this time it's a jump attack. And it looks like this. Boom. It's pretty fast. So you see the boss jumps and then does the lightning smash. So let's go ahead and add it. We already have a jump attack we did for our melee enemy, so we're gonna be doing the same thing we did there. So, custom event, let's just copy this one and call it jump attack. And we are going to copy our BPC attacks and call jump attack. Jump to attack targets. No, sorry, this is not the right one. It's, is it the right one? No. What was it called? Oh, it was called long range melee attack. Okay. Jump to attack target is the helper. Okay, so this is long range melee attack. And we make attack info. This is our target, and it's going to be the axe jump attack and damage info. Now, this is going to be an interesting one because if you see here, this has a jump and an AoE slash. So the montage notify that does damage is an explosion. It's an AoE slash. But the long range melee attack only supports slash, not AoE slash. So we're just gonna add it here. So we're gonna add a new pin, call it AoE slash. And on AoE slash, just do the AoE damage. And radius, let's say 300 by default, and the damage info, just get it from here. Oh, you can actually get it from here to be a bit cleaner. All right, so now we support AoE slash, which we have here. We just need to pass our damage info. Let's say it does 20 damage, type explosion, and this one can't be blocked, can't be parried, and should force interrupt. Usually our explosions do these three things, and hit reaction. All right, so as usual, adding it to our boss attacks real quick here. Let's call it jump attack. Back to our attack based on name function inside our BTT attacks. We call jump attack, plug in the attack target. I told you it's going to look like spaghetti soon, but it's still manageable. All right, so now that we have this attack, let's just demo it. So I'm going to unplug all the other attacks, and let's copy one of these. Let's call jump attack. Let's call it jump attack. All right, so let's start off a bit further from the enemy, somewhere here, and he's gonna jump. See that? He didn't quite reach me. If I'm close, he's gonna reach me, but if I'm further away, let me go a lot further. Actually, let me start already. Let's start him somewhere here, and I'm somewhere here. Yeah, he's not going to quite reach me. And he's also jumping pretty slow for this kind of attack. And let me explain why. If I go to my BPC attacks and look at this jump to attack target, in the suggest projectile velocity custom arc, there is an arc param. So how steep should the arc be? Now, if I did make this something like 0.95, like very high number, if you look here, it says between 0 and 1, where 1 is directly upwards sorry, 1 is directly towards the end position and 0 is directly upwards. So 0.95 is almost straight at the target. And let's see how this looks like. So again, if I start playing from further away, let's say I throw a projectile at him, so he jumps at me from further away. Now he reaches me very nicely. But if I'm close to him, it looks pretty weird, right? Especially when I'm moving. Yeah, this is not what we want. So for this case, I want to check if the boss is close to me, then have a smaller arc. If he's further, then have a larger arc. So we're going to do a little bit of math here. And we're going to use a bit of math nodes, but it's going to make sense when it all comes together. So this arc param, first I want to get distance between the owner. So let's say get distance to from the owner. Oh, and my cat's in the way again. To the attack target. All right, and I'm going to get this distance and I'm going to normalize it. So I'm going to call normalize to range. And what this does is, you see an example here. If you normalize 20 to the range of 10 to 50, then that means it's 0.25. So it basically normalizes a certain value between two other values. And the two other values that I'm going to use is 400 and 800. So this is sort of like my minimum and maximum distance. Anything below 400 use 0.5 as the arc param, and anything above 800 use 0.94. But how are we going to do that? We're going to need to use another node called lerp, or linear interpolate. And then based on this lerp node, before we lerp, we need to clamp this. So I'm going to clamp, clamp float to 0 and 1, meaning that I want these values to never go below 0 and never go above 1, right? And then here, we're gonna do a lerp, where this is the alpha. So a lerp just picks a value between A and B based on this. So if it's 0, it picks A, if it's 1, it picks B. And we're gonna plug this into our arc param. All right, so if it's 0, pick 0.5 as the arc. If it's 1, pick 0.94. So that means if the distance of the target is less than 400, then the arc will be 0.5. If the distance is greater than 800, then the arc will be 0.94. Now, you can, of course, do it with an if condition, but yeah, I found this to be also quite flexible. So now let's test it out. If I'm further away, he does the really long jump. And if I'm closer, he does the sort of smaller jump. All right, yeah, I think this looks good. And this is also very useful for our melee enemy, because if the melee enemy is usually closer and the boss is usually further away. All right, now this jump attack, I want it to be actually part of the throw axe, but a chance to pick one of them. So like we have here, a chance to do combo 1 or combo 2. At the end of the throw axe, I want there to be a chance also to either do the quick attack, well, teleport plus quick attack, or a jump attack. So let's do this as well. So we're going to have a selector here, and we're going to select either the quick attack or the, we need to call boss attack, and do the jump attack with our attack target. Let's also call it jump attack. And we're going to add our chance decorator on it. So look for chance, and it's going to be 50-50 as well. So 50% chance it will do the jump, 50% chance it will do the teleport plus quick attack. And let's make the cooldown also very low so we can start with it. Throw axe once, throw axe twice, and this one was quick attack. So the player now has a choice between blocking or dodging, because you can't block the jump attack. See? So now I have to really focus what animation the boss is about to do to know what to avoid. Great. So one thing you notice is that the boss is still locked on me when doing the jump attack. I actually don't want that because then it's really overpowered. So I want the jump attack. I want this to be a sequence, actually. And the chance is on the sequence. I'm going to call this the jump attack sequence. And before doing jump attack, I want to clear focus. So that means that if I move away while the boss is jumping, he won't keep staring at me. He won't rotate to face me, and that makes it a bit easier to avoid. Otherwise, it's really OP. You can't even evade it. All right, so this one was quick attack. I was able to estimate that, and I parried successfully. What is this one gonna be? Jump, and I didn't evade in time. Okay, let's try it again. And jump. All right, so I evaded, but again, a bit too early. So this is where the finesse or the skill comes into play. There we go, that was the right one. So you see he didn't rotate to face me as I teleported away from him. Nice. So this adds a lot of variability in the gameplay. You know that the boss is going to do one of either, and you have to really pay attention which one is coming. So you know based on the animation what attack is going to happen, but even when you know, it's hard to avoid. And that's what I call predictable but challenging. All right, now it's time to add one more attack that we don't have yet, or our own flavor of the boss attack, of the ground smash attack. So that's going to be an AoE attack, but a much, much larger one. And let me show you the animation for that. I think it's pretty cool. Ground smash, yeah, this one. So the boss raises his axe, and then after a few seconds, he does this like AoE attack. And you can see there's a ring that denotes how big the attack is. So to break it down, this just has a sound. So again, as I mentioned, you should make sure that the attacks have visual cues, audio cues. The player should know what's coming. So this one has an audio cue when the attack's charging up, and then a animation and also a an area of effect to show the player how big this attack is. And then by time, the player will learn the radius and learn to avoid it. So let's add our attack to our boss. Again, custom events, ground smash, input, attack, target, and we're just gonna call ground smash from BPC attacks, ground smash, make, and we're gonna see the axe ground smash, and we're gonna have this do like, I don't know, it should do fairly large amount of damage, and it's gonna be explosion, hit reaction, can't be blocked, can be parried, should force interruptible as well. And the radius, now I played around with the radius a bit to see something that matches the exact animation, sorry, the VFX, and I think it was about 1100, which is a significantly large radius. So then let's add it to our enum ground smash, and let's add it to our attack task as well. Boss ref, ground smash, and pass in our attack target. All right, let's test it out. I'm gonna unplug all of the attacks and we're gonna test it out. But first, let's create a sequence for it. Now this ground smash, I want the boss to only do it when he's close to the player. So since the closer the boss is to the player, the further away the player has to run. So then it's better to do it when you're closer to give the player a bit more of a challenge. So first thing is we set focus. First thing is we start with the decorator. So we had a blackboard key called distance to attack target. So only if the distance is less than or equal, say 300, then you're allowed to do this. And you maybe want to also put a cooldown node on it, you know, as you wish. And then the sequence is as follows. We do a focus on the attack target. And then we just call boss attack and choose ground smash, attack target, name it ground smash. Yeah, and that's about it for now. Let's look at it. So if I'm further away, he's not going to do it, and he's not going to do anything because we didn't plug any other attacks. Okay, but then as soon as I get close to him, then he does this, and boom, I got damaged. So again, now I need to run away, run away. Very nice. Let's see if I'm just within the radius. Nope, I didn't get hit. Great. So you can see that the boss follows me while I'm doing this, so he keeps focused. And then it's clear that he's going to do this attack. Very nice. Now, one thing you should also note is that this attack, I can't interrupt it, right? But I can still damage the enemy during this attack, which means that I can also force interrupt the enemy. So if I'm doing my combo, I'm force interrupting him. And also one thing to note is that this ground smash is by default non-interruptible. But I want the enemy not just to be non-interruptible, I want him to be invincible. It means he doesn't take damage. And we actually do support invincibility in our BPC damage system, but we haven't used it yet. So let's start by using it. And let me show you in our damage system. So we have here in the BPC damage system, we have something called is invincible, and it's used in take damage to see if we are invincible or not. So in our BPI, so this is the interface for our damageable actor, I'm going to add a function just like set is interruptible. We're going to set is invincible, and it just takes a single value, which is a Boolean, just like the interruptible one as well. And then if we compile, we want to implement this on both our player and our base enemy. So go to your enemy base. Under interfaces, you will see the new function set is interruptible. Set is invincible. Right here, let's put it next to the interruptible one. And it does the same thing. Gets our damage system. But instead of setting interruptible, it just sets is invincible to this value. Great. And we're going to copy it and do the same exact thing for the player. Excellent. Now we need a behavior tree task for it. So go to your behavior tree, new task, blueprint base, put it in tasks, and call it BTT set is invincible. We're gonna event receive execute AI. Gonna get our pawn and set is invincible. Promote this to a variable. Just call it value. That's fine. Make sure to click the eye icon. And once we're finished, finish execute. Also a very simple one. Now, in our ground smash sequence, what we want to do is set is invincible to true, so that the boss is invincible, can't take damage, can't be hit, and can't be interrupted, of course. If you don't take damage, you can't be interrupted. And then once we're done with the ground smash, we set it back to false. Now, the thing I like about this is that there's a very obvious visual cue that the boss is invincible, which is this floating red ring around him. So I can damage him all I want. I can even do this smash that's supposed to interrupt or force interrupts, but it's not doing anything because they're invincible. And that's the point of having this. All right, now I want to create my favorite attack. And for this attack, I already prepared a prop that I'm going to use. Here I have a folder here called props, and I have this BP floating platform. So it's just a circular mesh with the same effect that we have on the ground smash on top of it, and on the bottom as well. Now for this attack, I'm going to have the boss float on this pillar and do sort of an AoE trail. And this, again, you see a lot in boss fights where they teleport to a place where they're unreachable and invincible and then do some environmental damage or start throwing things at you. So I think this is going to be pretty cool. Let's take a look at how we're going to do that. So first, let me explain this floating pillar. It's just this static mesh with these two effects on it. And it has a function called start floating. And all this does is it plays a timeline and moves from its initial z value to a z value plus 350. So it moves 350 up on the z-axis. And then once it's done, it calls on float timeline finished. And this is a start floating. It has stop floating that does the exact same thing, but in reverse. So it goes back down and then also calls on float timeline finished. So this, as soon as we begin play, we call start floating. All right, so now let's see how we're gonna use it as part of our attack. So if we go here to our boss, somewhere here I'm gonna create the start and stop floating. So I'm gonna do a custom event, call it start float. And the first thing this does is that you know, you can set the invincibility. So I have here the damage system. I can set is invincible as a variable as well, because I'm inside the actor, so I have access to this damage system. So I can say that no matter what you do in the behavior tree, in this attack, you're invincible. So that's another way of doing it. And then what I want to do is spawn the floating pillar, BP floating platform, and the spawn location, I want it to be below my feet. So to do that, I need to actually do a line trace to find my the ground location. So a line trace by channel. The start location will be the get actor location. So starting from where I'm from and ending to where I'm from multiplied by 1 on the x, 1 on the y. So don't change the y, don't change the z, and just multiply it on, let's say, I don't know, negative 1,000 on the z. So just do a line trace straight down and find where you hit. And where you hit, that's the ground location. So, and that's going to be get the out hit, break it, and the location is going to be our spawn transform location. We're not going to handle the case that there's no hit because we always know there's a floor underneath us. You can if you want, but I'm not going to. All right, so this is the start float, and then we want also to bind, so assign on float timeline finished. So once the timeline reaches its end, that means the platform reached its peak. We want to call another event dispatcher. Why? Because we're going to call this from a behavior tree, so we need to know when it starts and when it finishes. So we're going to have a new event dispatcher here. I clicked on the plus, call it on start. On float height reached, something like that. And we're just gonna call it here. Oh, and we also want to create a variable for this. So we want to promote this platform to a variable. So call this the floating platform ref or reference. Oops, all right. Great. And that's the start float. So now we want custom event called stop float. So when they land down. So when they land, the first thing we want to do is check first if get this floating platform ref. We want to make sure that it is valid. Because if it is invalid for any reason, then there's nothing for you to do, really. So if it is valid, then destroy it. Oh, actually, sorry, before we destroy it, we want to call stop floating. Because if you recall here, on begin play of this floating pillar, it starts floating, but nothing calls stop floating. So we need to call it manually ourselves. So we call stop floating, and then we also assign on float timeline finished. Oh, and this reminds me, it's very important that here, where we bind, we also unbind. So we get our floating platform and say unbind from, what was it called? Unbind from float timeline reached. So unbind event on float timeline reached, and plug the event here. This is important because we don't want this to be called when this happens. So if we don't unbind, this will be called on both floating and stop floating. But once you unbind, then it's called once and it doesn't happen again until the next time you spawn, of course. So same here. Also, after doing this, we want to unbind from event from onFloat timeline reached, and then just call onFloat ended. Right. Oh, and we need to set the invincibility back. So we're gonna set is invincible back to false. All right, and if for any reason this is not valid, oh, did I forget something? Oh, this should be here. And if for any reason this is not valid, then just go straight to, well, actually do a delay until next tick, and then call this part. Just to give time again for the bind. Actually, we don't need a bind in this case. Oh, but we are calling an event dispatcher, so yeah. All right, so now that we have this, we need a way to call them. So I'm going to comment this and call it floating pillar ability. So now we need a way to use it from our behavior tree. So we're going to go over here to our behavior tree, new task, blueprint base, put it in our tasks folder, and call it boss start float. We're going to have a start float and a stop float. They're two separate tasks. So event receive execute AI. And this is going to cast to boss and then call start float. And then assign on float height reached. Then we're just gonna finish execute with success true. All right, and I'm gonna copy and paste this and call this one stop float. And let's open the stop float one, and just instead of calling start float, we call stop float. That's the only difference. And this is still on float height reached. Oh, and this is also good to unbind here as well. So here, unbind float height reached, bloop, bloop. And I'm gonna copy it as well to the start float. All right. So back to our behavior tree. I have so many tabs open. Back to our behavior tree. Let's take a look at this. Let's move all of these out of the way for now. And let's just do a start float. Wait for 5 seconds and stop float. Okay, so right now, as soon as we start, the boss floats. Oh, he's calling float multiple times in a row. Why are you doing that? Bind on height reached, finish execute. You should wait 5 seconds. Why aren't you waiting 5 seconds? Let's debug this real quick. If we play, it does start float. Oh, this is a selector. My bad. This should be a sequence. Let's call it the float for now. So it kept failing and kept repeating itself. I mean, kept succeeding and repeating itself. Okay, now float, wait 5 seconds, and after 5 seconds, you should stop floating and then repeat. And it's not repeating for some reason. And the stop float, okay, let me actually do this to make it easier to see. Just wait for 1 second, and then after you stop floating, wait for another second. So now float 1 second, stop floating. He didn't destroy the platform, so that is interesting. Let's see why not. So if it is valid, it will call stop floating, and then on float timeline finished, this doesn't seem to have been called. Right, so let's add a print somewhere here. Is this called? Float, unfloat. Oh, it is called. Oh, I see. We just didn't destroy the actor. So after doing this, actually before doing this, let's destroy actor. Yep. Okay, so now float, unfloat, destroy actor. Okay. Now what I'm curious about is why isn't it repeating it? It's stuck in the stop float. Oh, I think I know. Because in stop float, we bind to on float height reached. This is the wrong one. We're supposed to bind to, well, let's just do an assign on float ended. This is what event we're interested in. And then here as well, we want to unbind from float ended. I don't think the unbind here is very necessary, but yeah, let's just do it to be safe. Now it should work. Float, wait a second, and go back, and then repeat. All right, so now the attack itself. Once the boss is on top and has reached the peak of the float, I want them to do what I call an AoE trail. So an AoE attack where the location of the player is, so the player has to move, and then spawns another one. So a player has to keep running away from these AoE attacks. Let's see what this is gonna look like. So this is the animation that we're gonna use. So it's called Battle Cry, and it just looks like this. So the enemy just sort of does this animation, and we have a montage notify called strike every 1 second. So strike, 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 and during these strikes, we're gonna land lightning where the player currently is. So back here in our BP enemy boss, we're gonna have a custom event, call it AoE trail. And I don't think, yeah, in this one, yeah, we always need an attack target here. So attack target. And my cat is in the way again. So we're gonna call first attack. We don't have one of these in the BPC damage systems. We're gonna create a new attack. So we're gonna call attack from enemy base, and then we're gonna play a montage in our skeletal mesh. Come on, Chloe, stop it. In our skeletal mesh, and we're going to search for Battle Cry. All right. And then switch on notify begin, and it was called strike. That's the name of the notify. So on strike, we're going to spawn an AoE that we already have in our AoEs here called Lightning Strike. Now, if you're not familiar again with the AoEs that we've been using, I suggest checking out my AoE tutorial that will show you how we made all of these. But for now, you will see it in action very soon. So we're gonna spawn actor from class and search for AoE Lightning Strike. And this takes a few things. So we need a decal. We already have a few lightning decals here, but I'm going to use the red one. So I have this decal. Let me show it to you in the world. This indicator here that tells the player something's about to happen, move away from this location. So I'm going to use the red lightning decal. And the delay before strike is how long should the decal be visible before the actual attack happens. So if it's 1 second, that means you have 1 second to run away from this area. And this also has a function to automatically move it to the floor. So you just give it a location and it will always display to the floor where that location is. So we're going to split this. We're going to get our attack target, get actor location, and that's going to be our location. Then we have here assign an event called AoE overlap actor. This is when the AoE hits an actor. Here we want to check that we're not damaging teammates. So we're going to get the team number of this actor. And if the team number is not equal to our own team number, then they are on a different team and you feel free to damage them. So call take damage, the message one. All right, and the damage causer is self. The damage info is make. It's going to be, let's say, it's going to do a lot of damage. This is 30, 30. It's, let's say, explosion. Can't be blocked, can't be parried, shouldn't force interrupt, and does hit reaction. Anything else? Oh, on complete, on interrupt, call attack end. And pass in the attack target. All right, so we just finally need one more attack for it here in our enum. Call it AoE trail. Then also here in our attacks, call this one, pull off of boss ref, call AoE trail. And pass our attack target. And now let's build the sequence. So this AoE trail sequence, I'm going to delete the float. And we're going to do the AoE trail sequence. So sequence starts like this. First, the boss clears focus. And then runs the EQS that generates a POI, a point of interest. Stores it in point of interest, say it gets a random 1, and teleports to that location. So boss teleport to point of interest. Then after teleporting, we're going to float. All right, then after floating, we're going to do the attack, the AoE trail. Select AoE trail, select attack target. And then once we're done with the AoE trail, then we do stop float. And that's our attack sequence. Let's take a look at it. Goes here. Oh, one more thing before, well, after or before starting to float, let's focus the attack target again. All right, So teleport, focuses, and oh, I see lightning, but it's not spawning on the floor. It's spawning in my center. Why is that? Let's find out. I know what's happening. That is my bad. I set a location, but I didn't set a target. I don't need to actually set a location. I just need to set a target because this automatically gets the location of the target. Now it should work. All right, and AoE trail. Very nice. So now I need to run away from these. Excellent. And once he's down, he's gonna repeat it again. Very nice. All right. So now let's combine all of these attacks into one final boss fight. Let's see how we're going to do that. All right, so we have our ground smash, we have our random melee combo, we have our throw axe, we have our quick attack, we have our jump attack, teleport, and AoE trail. So everything is pretty much ready. Now let's add some cooldowns, the first thing. So AoE trail is pretty flashy and takes away from the flow of the fight. So let's add it as a break between intensive fights. So it's also important to know the flow that you want for a battle. So let's say this maybe should have a 50-second cooldown. All right, the axe, let's bring it back to 4 loops. And let's say this one should happen fairly often. So let's say this is only 20 seconds cooldown. Ground smash, we didn't add a cooldown for it. Let's add a cooldown as well. And let's say cooldown for this one is 30 seconds, a bit longer than the throw axe. And then finally, the random combo sequence doesn't have a cooldown. So whenever everything else is on cooldown, do this. And the order of the attacks will be like this. AoE trail gets the highest priority, then followed by... So this is if they're all not on cooldown, then this order will define priority. Then ground smash. And finally, the regular combo. And let's move all of these right here. All right, that's a big tree. Let's see what it looks like all put together. All right, now I can dodge this. I can try attacking the boss a bit. Oh, need to teleport from that. Oh. Oh, he's also blocking. That's perfect. Everything is... Ooh. Throw the axe. I know that these are going to be 4 axe throws. And final one, is he going to do a jump or a quick attack? A jump. Nice. Oh, I need to run away from that. Right on time. And stagger. And AoE trail is coming. So everything has a very obvious animation, visual cue, or sound cue. Oh, followed by throw axe. Oh, and by the way, the axe is homing, so if I dodge away, see the axe doesn't have time really to chase me, but it tries to spin to chase. You see that? So if you make it slower, it will actually rotate and face you. And I got that one. Oh. Nice. I think his HP is relatively large compared to mine. And he's pretty OP, but that's what makes it challenging, and I only have a handful of attacks to use. But I think it's really cool. It does definitely looks like a challenging boss, and we managed to achieve most of the pillars that we set out to achieve. Perfect. Thank you all for watching. I hope this was useful and educational. It took me a really long time to make it, so I appreciate that you stuck around and watched all of it. If you want to download the full project files for the entire series, you can get it on my Patreon, where it's free with a 7-day trial, but I would of course love it if you stuck around after the trial to support my channel. Also, make sure to check out my new Apprentice tier on Patreon, where I offer a one-to-one hour-long conversation with me, where you can ask me anything about game development, software engineering, or really anything else. So, as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.